Hey, what's cracking, everyone? Welcome in to the Fantasy Football Stardom Situm Week 7 show presented by FLURRY Sports, part of Fantasy Football by Committee, home to the top ranked fantasy football ranker in the industry, Mr. Zach Bruner, the leader of this whole charge over here. Congrats to you, my man. Keep riding high. And we're excited to be here. We're excited to be a part of it. A lot of good stuff happening over and around FLURRY Sports right now on the channels, on everything. So it's a good time to be alive. Joining me tonight, as always, Zach McAdoo. How are you doing, sir? The Yankees are in a tight one right now, I know, but a lot of good football coming up this week too, right?
Yeah, what Bills won Monday, they play against the lowly Titans, which hopefully all goes well and nothing. Hopefully, I didn't just jinx myself saying that, but well, we have some good football on the turn.
That we do, and it all kicks off. Week 7 starts tonight, actually. Kind of an interesting matchup. The Denver Broncos, the New Orleans Saints. Well, whoever's left of the New Orleans Saints, I guess it is at this point. A lot of injuries. McAdoo, somebody by the name of Bub Means is going to be, I believe, the wide receiver 2 for the Saints tonight. And, oh, by the way, it's Spencer Rattler throwing him the ball. Like, there's wild stuff going on in that game. So that should be an interesting one. If you have any fantasy football start sit questions related to Thursday Night Football, definitely get those out on the table here, and we will try to take care of those to ease your stress, whatever you may have going into tonight. Saints defense giving up a lot of points here lately, so maybe some Broncos are ones that you want to throw in lineups this week as well. But an interesting game there. And then, of course, we roll into the weekend. Only 2 teams on bye this week. So we're going to have 15 total games. We got the Monday night doubleheader on the back end. Should be a fun week 7. We're here to answer your questions. Drop them in the chat, and we'll be here up till, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes before kickoff. So we'll go about an hour or so. McAdoo, what do you want to start off with? Is there any burning fantasy topic, any player? We had some trades, wide receivers this week. Devontae Adams to the Jets, Amari Cooper to the Bills. Why don't we start there? What do you say?
If you want to start with talking about Cooper, yeah, I mean, I love, as a Bills fan, I love the pickup. Only got up a third and a seventh for Cooper and a sixth in return, so it's not that bad of an investment. Cooper does have the most drops in the year, but I think his value definitely goes up playing with Allen compared to Watson in Cleveland. So
can't get much worse.
Yeah,
cannot get much worse.
But if you do own Shakir, Kincaid, Coleman, any of those guys, I think their value goes down based on this. And I mean, I was a guy who was hard pressed saying Khalil Shakir is going to be probably the guy who's going to get most of the targets from Buffalo. So it kind of hurts my heart, but I'll take it for if Cooper can lead us somewhere.
So now that Cooper comes in, do you think Shakir is second in the pecking order, or is Coleman going to take that jump? A lot of people were definitely high on expecting early in the year as a rookie, or what do you think there? Cooper, I'm assuming, is your wide receiver 1 right away, plug and play. Who do you like behind him?
So I don't. The funny thing is, I consider Shakir a slot guy. I don't think of it I think slot guys are different than wide receiver 2s. I think your perimeter guys are wide receiver 1s, 2s. I think Shakir is going to be the slot guy, and Coleman obviously is going to be the perimeter. But I don't know. I think going forward, maybe you'll see Shakir get more targets. I think they're going to try to help Coleman get some experience into the league. So maybe they try to not force the ball to him, but get him the ball more. We will see, though.
We certainly shall. Speaking of Amari Cooper, the Fantasy Football Stardom Situm articles are up on flurrysports.org. Zach, you put Amari Cooper in your wide receivers article. Why don't we touch on that? And then I do want to talk about Devontae Adams and how we see him fitting into the Jets here after that trade as well. What we can expect from everyone there as far as the wideouts. But Amari Cooper, a sit for you this week against the Titans.
Yes. I mean, his first practice with the Buffalo was today. I don't know about you. Considering he was traded Tuesday, I think he should have been there by now, maybe. But it's let's see, Thursday, Friday, Saturday's usually a walkthrough. That's 3 days that he's learning the Bills playbook. I don't know that he's gonna take control of the snap count and learn the playbook in that short amount of time. But I think there's better wide receivers out there to choose from.
Okay, so it's a familiarity thing for the most part for you, as far as why you wouldn't want him this week. The Titans also actually sneaky decent against wide receivers in fantasy. The Titans or Will Levis are the Titans Will Levis, or is Will Levis the Titans? I don't know. I guess record wise, the Titans have become Will Levis, but Tennessee's defense is not bad, and they have allowed the second fewest fantasy points per game to opposing wideouts. So, um, would you be starting any other Bills receiver just before we jump off that? If you're not starting Cooper this week, knowing it's kind of a difficult matchup there, but it is Josh Allen and the Bills offense. So, do you like Shakir? Do you like anyone else?
I do. I mean, if you go back to last week, a Pittman that was supposed to miss 3 weeks plays against the Titans, which that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
I've
Don't even get me started.
Yeah, you want to talk about
how is that allowed to happen in a league that is so driven fan base wise and interactivity wise by betting, by fantasy? How does the Colts injury report from last week happen? Don't even get me started.
I don't know. All I'm going to say though is that Pittman caught a touchdown last week. He put some points on the board, so I think the dam might have burst in Tennessee, and we'll probably start to see that more and more.
Fair enough. Let's round out the back end of our wide receiver trade discussion. Davante Adams, big shocker, traded to the New York Jets. GM Aaron Rodgers, I was told by an anonymous source, made the move. So Adams' hamstring is better now. Was there ever a hamstring injury? Who knows? He allegedly was working with the Raiders staff the whole time. Read into that what you will, but he's going to be out there this week. The Jets are taking on a good defense, much like Cooper going to the Bills, taking on a decent Titans defense. Jets will be taking on a good defense in the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sunday Night Football, I believe that is. So let's talk about this. We've got Davante Adams coming in. Obviously, the rapport with Aaron Rodgers is real. You've got Allen Lazard, also has a rapport with Rodgers from their time in Green Bay. Lazard has looked pretty good this year as well. And then you've got Garrett Wilson, who is the young alpha sensation, but probably no longer the wide receiver one there in New York, because I don't think Davante Adams is coming in to be a wide receiver two. So what are your thoughts on this whole situation? And we don't even have to talk about Mike Williams. Let's not get into that.
Yeah, I think Mike Williams might be droppable. If not,
I said don't get into it.
Listen, I will.
He dropped himself on the turf.
No comment. I mean, I'd love to see it, but no comment.
It was fun.
Yeah, obviously Davante Adams is wide receiver one there, but if you look on Sleeper, he's listed as wide receiver 2 behind Garrett Wilson. I don't think that's right. I think that maybe it's just a 1 week thing, like what I said about how he doesn't know the playbook yet. So I think it's just going to be a matter of time before Davante Adams is typical Davante Adams, especially with Aaron Rodgers in front of him.
I'm going to leave that alone, but yeah, I think Davante Adams is definitely the wide receiver one in this offense. As long as he's healthy, he might not be what he once was fully, but he is still really damn good. Just go back and look at his numbers from a year ago when he had Aiden O'Connell and Jimmy G, whatever was left of him. I guess not much, because he had to cheat and try to take roids or something. So Davante Adams is still good. Garrett Wilson, I think, will be fine. Allen Lazard, I feel like he's kind of a borderline wide receiver 3 most weeks in general, just because you can't trust him. And right when he's getting to the point where I feel like you could trust him to potentially be a weekly wide receiver 3, now I think he takes a hit here, probably very much so touchdown dependent in fantasy on a week-to-week basis. So I guess that's it, how I would see that playing out. I also am concerned about Tyler Conklin, the tight end, here a little bit, just because Devontae Adams has that rapport, and Rodgers is going to look to him often to just get rid of the ball. So I worry that a very bad, mediocre tight end fantasy situation across the board just got potentially a little bit more mediocre. I think this hurts Conklin's value as well. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like the Cooper trade, you're going to see the guys around the Jets start to fade a little bit. Maybe this helps Wilson though, because it's gonna more double teams for Adams opens up Cooper Wilson, excuse me. So I mean, maybe that's the thought process here.
Real quick, does it help the Jets? Or is this kind of a luxury item? Because at the end of the day, can this offensive line protect Aaron Rodgers so he can throw the ball to anyone?
We'll see Sunday, I guess.
Fair enough. Fair enough. We do have our first question of the evening, so let's jump into that. Going to pivot away from wide receiver discussion here for a moment. Uh, Javonte Williams with the Broncos tonight. Of course, going up against the Saints on TNF. Raheem Mostert, Tyler Algier, Antonio Gibson start one this week. So Javonte Williams with the Broncos against the Saints, like I mentioned. Antonio Gibson's going to be the London game Sunday morning for New England against Jacksonville. Raheem Mostert and the Dolphins take on the Colts and that lovely defense. But, it is the Dolphins' backfield, so that is always a bit of a headache, I would say. And then Tyler Algier and the Falcons, they have got Seattle. You have a lean here.
I want to lean Gibson because I don't know if Ramondre is supposed to be back or not yet. But if Ramondre is starting, which we'll know early on in the day, probably about the time most people get up for the game because like they have to be in 90 minutes before kickoff, and kickoff's at 9:30 in the morning. I would go probably Raheem Mostert.
Okay, it's going to be Javonte Williams tonight for me. So I would say lock him into your lineup. The Broncos backfield situation seems to be kind of finding a footing, and I'm pulling up just so I can give you the actual numbers here. Last couple of weeks, Williams has played 63 and 67% of the snaps, 13 carries. 6 carries is all last week, but Denver was trailing most of that game. 6 targets in the passing game in both of those, 5 receptions, 3 receptions. Did lose a fumble last week, so it was a poor showing. I think he gets right this week. Last week was a tough matchup for running backs. Javonte Williams is like that guy who's right on the fringe of RB2 territory every single week. And so I do like him over Gibson, even if there is no Ramondre Stevenson. I know it's the Jaguars. I know they have no culture or whatever the hell's going on there right now. But I don't trust New England's offense. I need to see it again, I guess, with Drake May. There were some positive signs last week, but I'll take Javonte Williams here. So a little bit of different from you. Speaking of the number one fantasy football ranker in the industry, Zach Bruner in the chat chimes in. There probably will be no Ramondre Stevenson, and then he also commented the Jets need the tight end to chip to help the tackles on their blocks. That bad offensive line we were talking about. So Conklin's probably going to lose snaps to Ruckert there as well for blocking purposes. So all good stuff there. Keep those questions coming, guys. We love to answer them. We love to help you guys out, especially anything with Thursday Night Football tonight. Coming up in about 45 minutes now. Zach, why don't we finish up our receiver discussion as far as the article is concerned? We covered Cooper. We talked about the Jets situation with Devontae Adams going there. How about your other sit in the article? Let's get the pessimism out of the way first, and then we can be optimistic. You are sitting Brandon Ayuk this week for the 49ers in a Super Bowl rematch against the Kansas City Chiefs. Ayuk's been a bit of a disappointment, to say the least, so far from a fantasy production standpoint, And you expect that to continue this week? Why
Yeah,
so?
I mean, if you read my article, I did say he was very underwhelming, especially with the drama he caused over the offseason. Um,
Yes.
this is just
Who
I
holds
don't.
in?
And the
You're
fact of
either
the matter
all in
is,
or you're all out.
yeah.
Stop
Fact,
waffling in the middle.
fact of the matter is, Ayuk's been outshined by Juwan Jennings. So at the same point of trying to get your money, you're getting outshined by what, wide receiver three, and they also going to play a very good Kansas City defense that has limited wide receivers, giving up the seventh fewest points, and KC is coming off a bye, so more time to prepare. I'm not a fan of Ayuk this week.
So you mentioned Jawan Jennings, who I've always been a fan of as a player. I think he's solid in his role there. Did not practice today, has a hip injury. If Jennings is out, how do you feel about Ayuk? Does that change your sit call? Just curious.
I would say no because I don't see Ayuk getting a lot of points this week, regardless.
Okay.
And I know
Kansas
the
City's
Niners have a
defense
lot of
is going to
injuries
be tough.
with including Jordan Mason too. So
In 4 of the 6 games this year, so far, Ayuk only has 4 and 5 targets. He has 5 targets in 3 games. Had 4 targets last week. The other two he had double-digit targets. Um, he's only scored double-digit PPR points once, and that target share is kind of interesting for a guy who got paid all that money in the offseason. But like we said, the situation he caused wasn't fully up to speed, perhaps coming into the year. So um, you are on the side of he kind of needs to get his shit together, I guess, before you are willing to just throw him into lineups as a wide receiver too comfortably. How about some guys that you are more excited about for Week 7, though? Mike Evans. Boy, that Tampa Bay Bucks offense looks good. He's got the Ravens in the same game. Zay Flowers for the Ravens against the Bucks, who the Tampa Bay Bucks defense doesn't look quite as good as the offense. Let's break down this game and these receivers.
yeah, I mean, if you go back to last week, we'll start with Zay Flowers. If you go back to last week, Zay Flowers, they call it Lamar calls him joystick for a reason. I mean, 19 plus in 3 of the 6 games this season. Very good connection. And then the Bucks, look at what they did last week. They gave up 27 points in 1 quarter to Spencer Rattler of all people. So, I mean, well, I shouldn't say just Spencer Rattler because Shaheed did have one punt return for a touchdown, which that sucks now because I do like Shaheed and he's out for the rest of the year. Hopefully he gets to return healthy next year, but for now,
Bub Means, baby. It's Bub Means
Bucks
time.
Bucks give up the 6 most fantasy points, and week 5 they gave up 30 plus to Drake London and Darnell Mooney. So there's that, and then Mike Evans, big boy, plays so much better at home, which the Bucks are this week. And the Ravens also give up the 3rd most fantasy points to wide receivers. So
Yeah, you can't run the football on the Ravens, so your only choice is to throw the ball on them. And so far, teams have done that quite successfully. So I like the Evans call. I don't think there's a week where you're not starting Mike Evans with how well Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers offense has been rolling. Both he and Chris Godwin have been just awesome. Even Kate Otton's getting involved a little bit. Um, and then Zay Flowers as well. I like him as well. Real quick before we move on, since we're talking about this game, outlook on the Buccaneers backfield. Last year we saw, or last week, not last year, last week we saw, maybe it feels like a year ago to me, I don't know. Sean Tucker had an outburst. Rashad White is banged up and questionable. And then you still have the rookie Bucky Irving, who to me is kind of floating around the fringe of RB2 territory. Do you have any staunch opinion on how the touches are going to be broken down between those running backs, as Tampa Bay might have a, quote, 3-headed monster, according to Todd Bowles, in the backfield now going forward?
I think Rashad White should lose all his touches and just let the other two run the ball and take it. That's my opinion, but I don't get paid for that, so
Okay, fair enough. I like Bucky Irving this week. I do. I don't know. Let me see what the latest on White is. And then we do have another question that we'll hop on here. He was limited today at practice, so potentially in line to make his return after missing last week. Bucky Irving had 64% of the snaps last week. Sean Tucker, 38. The Sean Tucker line's a fluke. That's not going to continue. So I would want Bucky Irving still in my lineup if White misses, and probably even if he plays, based on kind of a similar sentiment to what McAdoo just conveyed there. All right, questions. Here we go. Thank you guys for interacting. Let's see what we can do to help. In a tough spot, we need to pick two, McAdoo. Demario Douglas, Austin Eckler, Juju Smith-Schuster, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jalen Waddle. Got Douglas and the Patriots in London against the Jags. Eckler and the Commanders. They play the
Panthers.
Panthers, yes. And then we've got, what else we got here? Obviously, Juju and the Chiefs against the Niners. Smith and Jigba and the Seahawks against Atlanta. Jalen Waddle still with Tyler Huntley at quarterback for now, to a rumor to be trying to come back. And they will be playing the Indianapolis Colts. Some good options here, but I can see where it's a kind of a tough decision.
Yeah, I don't think Demario Douglas is a bad place since they're playing against the Jags.
Okay. I'm going to throw Jackson Smith and Jigba out there as my favorite of the bunch. I think that Seahawks-Falcons game is going to be a track meet. I don't know who gets stops in that game. I think Seattle's only choice is to move the ball up and down the field, trying to keep up, because I like what I'm seeing out of this Atlanta offense. I'm not liking what I'm seeing out of the Seattle defense. So Smith and Jigba is kind of, I would think, a wide receiver 2 this week.
So I should drop the
potentially top 20 even in that matchup.
I should go find a different defense in Dynasty since I have the Seattle defense.
Maybe just this week. I like JSN. And as far as the rest, I think Smith-Schuster is kind of sneaky. I love that you have him on your roster after the Chiefs were on bye last week. I would probably go Pop Douglas over him. And then as far as Eckler, or Douglas, it comes down to for me. I'm scared off of Waddle right now. I need to see it from Tyler Huntley. I think I would start Eckler. Give me the running back and give me my favorite receiver of the bunch. Would you go a different direction? Douglas and Eckler? Okay. All right. So, hopefully we help. We agree on Eckler. I'm going to say McAdoo's an idiot for saying Demario Douglas over Jackson Smith and Jigba, but that's me because I said Jackson Smith and Jigba. So, you get to decide which of us is the idiot. You're very welcome. Thank you for checking in and hanging out. Another question here, McAdoo. How bad of an idea is it to start Bub Means, my boy, tonight? Just kidding. I don't know Bub Means. I just love his name. If my only other options are Xavier Legette or Jordan Whittington.
Is Bub his actual first name or is that a nickname? There's no way it's his first name.
To be honest with you, I don't know. But I will try to find out here.
But it's not bad because Legette is going against the Washington defense, who has done very well up until last week when they do, like 30 points, was it, against the Ravens? And then Whittington, who the Rams play this week?
Well, are you saying the Commanders' defense is good?
Yes.
Please don't say that. No. Not good. They're not good. Xavier Legette played 77% of the snaps last week, had 4 targets. He's had a couple of decent games. That was his 3rd highest target count on the season. second time scoring double-digit PPR points. With Carolina, obviously Andy Dalton helps all the Panthers receivers there in that offense, but it is the Panthers. Kind of like the matchup with the Commanders as far as what they give up to wide receivers, fifth most PPR points per game. And then Jordan Whittington, the Rams situation is interesting because Cooper Kupp probably back. Let me check the latest update on him. The highway's been my home all day. Stays limited at practice for Kupp with the ankle injury. I really hope he's back. It would be probably Means or Leggett for me. And screw it. I would say start Bub Means. Why not?
Yeah, looking more after you said the Commanders' defense is bad. I looked more into it. They are 30th according in our little dynasty for most points given up. I would start Leggett.
You would start Leggett over Means.
Yes, because
okay.
while I might be wrong with the Commanders' defense being good, the Broncos' defense. Well, wait a minute, isn't Surtain out? I knew he was hurt last week.
What I can tell you is Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed are both out.
Yeah,
Bub
that's what we do.
Is the wide receiver 1 or 1A for whoever else the Saints have.
If he's going up against Patrick Surtain, though, which I'll look up and see what the Broncos inactives are.
All right. By the way, Bub Means' actual name is Gerard. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that right. Jerrod.
Surtain is out.
Means. Played college football, Tennessee, Louisiana Tech, and Pitt. Place of birth, Las Vegas, Nevada, baby. Let's go. Surtain is out. Bub Means is in your lineup. You're welcome, Spubsy. Thank you for a good question. That was fun.
But you can't tell me if he was playing at Surtain, that's who you want. You'd have him in there over Leggett and Whittington.
I would more strongly consider Leggett at that point.
Yes.
No, he has nothing on Bub Means in the name department. Thoughts on the game tonight? We've kind of been talking about it with the last question. For me, general thoughts, Saints are super banged up. Spencer Rattler, I guess, has another opportunity to try to do something, but I like the Broncos defense, even with Surtain out. I think they're a good unit, and I also like what I'm seeing out of this Broncos offense. I know it was a slow game last week, but Chargers defense is good. I think Chargers are obviously well coached with Coach Harbaugh, and I think Denver is steadily making progress. So I agree with the Broncos being favored. These are my general thoughts. And as we already discussed with another question, I like Javonte Williams from a fantasy standpoint. I think Bo Nix is getting better, though. General thoughts on the game from you?
Yeah, Mo picks. I mean, Bo Nix has done a lot better in the recent weeks here. I just saw a stat today. Alvin Kamara has not scored a touchdown on a Thursday night game. So that's interesting. With Spencer Rattler in there, not Derek Carr, not his Saints' first two receivers, I think the Saints are going to have a tough matchup against that Broncos defense. And we've seen the Saints, other than playing the Cowboys and Panthers, not been able to stop I don't know, what's should be easily stopped. It's not. It's a movable force. Let's just call it what it is. But I think the Broncos should have.
It's not. A snail.
Sure, why not? But I think the Broncos offense should be able to.
They barely move anyways, right?
It's a stoppable object versus a movable force. Oh damn, this could be a bad matchup. But I still think the Broncos are going to win.
I like it. All right. Let's see here. Another question. Chris Bird. Bruner says Bub Means it's a dog too, by the way. in case you didn't catch that one. And I agree. Would you trade Amon-Ra St. Brown for Chase Brown and Puka Nacua? This is interesting because I like both players that you're getting. Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown is what he is, which is awesome. I think I hold.
In a vacuum, I don't know.
But
the obvious question is, who else do you have in your team?
That's a good point.
But
looking to see. The one nice thing about Amon-Ra St. Brown right now is Lions just had their bye. So think about that too. Still a lot of bye weeks to get through. You've got that out of the way. You held him through that bye. So maybe this is a case of, okay, let me get a couple more weeks out of him and then potentially revisit it. Chase Brown, you're still going to have to get through that. Puka Nacua, the Rams had their bye last week. Nacua, though, is not in line to even possibly return this week, like Kupp. Still, and as far as the soonest he could be back, not practicing this week. And it's probably going to be, I would say, a couple more weeks at a minimum before he's even potentially returning. So that's fine if you're 6-0, but if you're 3-3 and in the thick of trying to battle for the playoffs, then I definitely wouldn't do it, knowing St. Brown's already had his bye and Puka's not going to be returning for probably another 2 weeks at a minimum. So I like Chase Brown. He's the guy to own in the Bengals backfield going forward, taking that over clearly, but I would hold. What else you got? Go ahead. Oh, he posted his team here. Here we go. Awesome, Chris. He's got Derrick Henry, Kareem Hunt, Jordan Mason, Rachaad White, RBs, and then Chris Godwin, Juju, Cortland Sutton. He's 5-1. I don't think the trade makes your team that much better. I guess you're getting Chase Brown to go behind Derrick Henry and Jordan Mason. I know Rachaad White's a disappointment there, but looking at that team, I'm holding St. Brown. I'm standing in my conviction with that. Do you agree? Are you swayed by the roster and the record? 5-1.
I can't make that trade. I think I'm holding.
Okay. Yeah, I would sit on him, I think, for right now. Or see if you can get more. I don't know what else the opposing team has, but maybe you can get something other than a guy who's still on IR. Trading for injured players can be dangerous, especially with the Rams' injury luck here these past few years. It seems like guys go down and you think they're going to be back, and then that's just not the case. So hopefully that's not what happens with Nacua. But I would float around, see if you can get a little bit more back, or just a different receiver who's going to be solid and is healthy. 5-1, you want to keep that train rolling, I think, though. So that one will hold. All right. Keep firing those questions, guys. We've got about 20 or so more minutes before we hop off for Thursday night football. So any fantasy football start sit questions for week 7, trade questions like that one, we're happy to work on those for you. Whatever you got, we will do our best. I guess even if it's not football, we can try. Give McAdoo a question about Dirty Dom, somebody. That's what he needs in his life.
I don't want to talk about Dirty Dom.
They were losing when we got on air. You know what? Sorry, didn't hear you.
I don't want to talk about that dirty.
Let's continue. Let's hit another article here while the questions come in. You also wrote up week 7 start sit for tight ends. Dalton Schultz is the poster boy, and you have him as a start for the Houston Texans this week against the Green Bay Packers. Tight end position, extremely frustrating for a lot of people this year, myself included, in some spots. Um, Talk to us about Dalton Schultz. The good news is there's only 2 teams on bye this week, so you have more streaming options if you're in that boat. But why do you like Schultz this week?
So yes, he's playing on Houston, which is a very crowded room for receiving wise, but the Packers giving up 13.85 points to against tight ends. That's the third most to the tight end group so far this season. And then the last 2 weeks, it's been 12.2 and 17.6. So that's why I like Schultz.
And that Texans receiver room is a little less crowded with Nico Collins on the IR. So, Schultz, 8 targets last week was a season high, 6 the week before that when Collins went down. So, 4 receptions in each game. I think he benefits from it. I don't know that he benefits as much as someone like a Tank Dell in the short term future while Collins is on the IR with the hamstring injury. But I'm on board with it. I think that he has a chance to be on the fringe of tight end 1 or even in the top 10 any given week here, especially with Nico Collins out. Your other start in the article was Zach Ertz with the Commanders taking on the miserable Carolina Panthers. Zach Ertz has been a decent streaming option at the position. He remains sparsely owned in a lot of leagues, and it surprises me. But people are catching on to him, the old wily veteran, and you like Zach Ertz this week as well.
Yeah, he's very experienced. Going to help that rookie out a lot. He had 10.8 fantasy points against the Ravens last week. So definitely growing that relationship with Daniels. And then we're going to make fun of the Panthers a lot this year. Come on. This is 8th most points given up to the tight ends. And last week, Kyle Pitts, who's very hit or miss, scored into the double digits. So that's why I like Ertz this week.
Yes, sir. We have got a situation here in the chat to look at, and let's see what we can do. I haven't read through the whole thing yet, so I'll read it live. Here we go. Wide receivers available: McLeod, Bateman, Gabe Davis, Leggett, Ridley, Elijah Moore, Valley with the Broncos, Trey Tucker, Pierce, the Bengals guy whose name I cannot pronounce right for the life of me every time I screw it up. There you go. Thank you. Jalen Tolbert, Quentin Johnston, Keon Coleman. It is a 12-man PPR as we jump to the next part of this. 2 flex spots. His starters: Kyler Murray, Derrick Henry, Brian Robinson, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Trey McBride, Wan'Dale Robinson, Devontae Smith. I like that starting lineup. His bench: Tyjae Spears, Rico Dowdle, Braylon Allen, I'm assuming, Dontavian Wicks, Jalen Waddle, Nico Collins on IR. Love your receivers, man. His question, McAdoo, is should he drop Wicks for any of the players who are available?
Has Elijah Moore done anything this year? I have not heard
of any Browns have done much of anything.
That's fair.
I mean, Deshaun Watson's collected $2.5 million a week, and he's 4-2 right now, so 3rd place. Hell yeah, man. Let's see what we can do here. Well, some names that jump out to me off the cusp. Calvin Ridley, if Mason Rudolph goes in, can he get a bump? Potentially. Trey Tucker with the Raiders. Still no quarterback, but Devontae Adams is gone. Does that give him a bump? And then Jalen Tolbert with the Cowboys. He's the wide receiver too there. Brandon Cooks is out hurt right now, but he's was outplaying Cooks even when he was in the lineup. So that's another one. And then Quentin Johnston, don't love him. Don't love the Chargers receiving core as a whole. Not much of a passing attack out there. But I think that he's kind of in a battle right now with Josh Palmer for the wide receiver 2 spot in that offense. So I could see that. Potentially even Keon Coleman. remains to be seen how Amari Cooper shakes up that offense there. But yeah, you can definitely drop Dontavian Wicks for any number of these guys, I would say. Um, Zach, do you have one or two or three that you really like from that list there that you would replace him with?
Coleman, Leggett, Pierce, Yosivas, Tolbert, just off the top of my head.
Okay. That is Calvin Ridley that's available, right? I'm a little surprised that I know it's not pretty down there, but to just have him as depth, I like it. And then Tolbert a lot, I think for sure. So yeah, you got good options there. And let's see here. Top ranked fantasy football ranker agrees. There's too many ranks when I say that. I need to top rated, top. What can I do here? The best? Can we just call him the best? I don't know. Uh, yeah, he agrees that you can drop Wicks for most of them. So there you go. Definitely beef up that depth. And he also adds Yoshivas is the only one. Did I get it right that time? That he
Yes.
would not drop him for. And yeah, with the Bengals having Higgins and Chase both healthy now, I think he drops off a little bit for sure. But he would do it for any of the others. So there you go. Take your pick. All right, we are caught up on the chat. So let's finish up the tight end article. Keep the questions coming, though, guys. That's what we're here for. We love it. Some good, fun stuff here so far tonight. McAdoo, your sits in the tight end article. You are sitting Pat Freiermuth with the Steelers this week against the New York Jets. Is this going to be the Russell Wilson-led Pittsburgh Steelers for the first time this season? Last I checked, it seemed to be trending that way.
We will get to see the Steeler debut of Russell Wilson. And I
Broncos
don't know.
country.
Oh my God, Judge's tournament. We're tied at 3. Let's go. Sorry, but
evil Empire fan.
Sue me. So, I mean, it seems Freiermuth has peaked for now. Last week, he had 2 receptions, 16 yards for 3.6 fantasy points against the Raiders. Oh, okay, I guess Wilson was announced by then. And then you combine that with the fact that the Jets have given the 7th fewest points in the league to tight ends at 7.85 average points per game. I'm going with the Jets defense over Freiermuth.
Okay. And then your other sit from the article was Hunter Henry, who, this is an interesting one because I think he's kind of a fringe top 12 guy at this juncture, rolling through buys and whatnot, even in that bad Patriots offense. But, I mean, I had him in the waiver wire column that went up earlier this week over on FLURRYSports.org as an ad because he's sparsely owned, and security blanket for Drake May was my thinking. You don't think he gets there this week, though. Tell me why. Tell us why. Don't tell me. Tell the people.
This is done. I'm not gonna lie. This is done at throw. I had to figure out who, because when you get down there, it's like they're all playing bad, like either good offenses, good defenses and a bad offense or whatnot. I don't know if Drake May is just had his 1 week show off and now he's going to fall off or what it was last week. I just don't trust him yet. So I think Hunter Henry and the rest of the Patriots offense, except for maybe Gibson, because I don't think Stevens is playing this week. I think unless you're a Patriots running back, you're not going to have that uphill. So I think any Patriots receiver can be set this week.
Fair enough. Another trade question here in the chat. We're through 2 of the 3 articles. We're doing good work tonight. Alec, should he trade Ayuk and Eckler for Nico Collins and Tank Bigsby? My first reaction when I saw this is, what is your record right now? Because Nico Collins, you're not going to have him for another couple of weeks. Tank Bigsby, is that enough to do that deal? We talked about Ayuk when we went over the wide receiver article. It's been underwhelming, as McAdoo put it, in writing so far this year. We talked about Austin Eckler with a lineup decision a little bit earlier. Are you doing this trade, McAdoo, in a vacuum?
I would. I
Okay.
would. If you're getting Collins and Bigsby, I would. Nico Collins was doing pretty good before he ended up going down. You have to wait 2 more weeks before he comes back.
He's only the
Granted,
best receiver in the league.
hamstring injuries usually linger a little bit longer than what they should, but um, I think Bigsby's starting to get more carries down there in Jacksonville over ETN, so it might not be a bad take a shot like that.
So let's talk about this for a second. And we can tie in the fact that I had Tank Bigsby as a sit this week in my Stardom Situm article. And I kind of want to get another opinion on it, to be honest. He's ranked number 22 in the Fantasy Pros ECR. I feel like that's just a little rich for me right now. I know ETN might actually miss this game. I know that the Patriots aren't a good defense. I know that Dearness Johnson played a lot more of the snaps last week, but that was because Jacksonville was trailing. He's the passing situation running back. So when I look at this trade, I'm kind of thinking the same thing. Like, hell yeah, I love Nico Collins. Once he's back from IR, cool. If I can afford it, afford the 2 to 3 more weeks without him, sure. Are we buying into? Am I just behind everyone else on Tank Bigsby right now?
I don't know. I mean, he's still splitting carries with ETN if ETN's healthy. Maybe even this week with Dearness Johnson. We don't know yet. Plus, the Jaguars' offense is the Jaguars' offense at this point, which shouldn't be the case with Trevor Lawrence getting paid $50 million a year. So, I think it's just they have to figure out something quick.
My whole thing with Bigsby is he's had no more than 13 carries in any game. He's played no higher than 40% of the offensive snaps in any game. I just feel like we're rushing to say that he's RB2 this week, and then I also are we just really gonna rip the job from ETN? I don't think so. I think ETN, when he's healthy, is the lead back. I don't know. So that makes me worry about Bigsby this week. We tied that in, and then I feel like Ayuk should have more progression going forward. Um. So, man, again, I guess it comes down to me. What is your record? Can you afford to be without Collins? Do you have other good receivers next to or behind Ayuk that you can plug in for a few weeks? And then, I mean, decide for yourself too. Where do you fall on the Tank Bigsby spectrum right now? I'm a little cooler on it than a lot of people. I don't know. That just worries me. That hasn't played that many snaps, hasn't seen a ton of carries in any game. He's broken off some nice big plays and whatnot, had a bunch of touchdowns in one game. I think when ETN's healthy, he's still the guy. So that's our outlook on that trade. Bruner adds, Dearness Johnson doubled Bixby snaps last week too. Yes, he did. And no, he didn't do a ton with them, but was it potentially game script? I don't know. But I'm just worried. I don't get the whole rush to crown him an RB2 right now. Alex says he's 5-1. He's got DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin, and AJ Brown with Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry. Does that adjust how you look at that Ayuk Eckler trade? I like that roster. I get the desire to bring in Nico Collins and really have a stud. I like the running backs as well. I think the roster and the record might make me a little more comfortable with doing it, but I also might want to sit and wait another week and see what Bigsby does in a way. Because Nico Collins can't really, what happens this week? He gets 1 week closer to coming off the IR. So that doesn't really adjust him any, I guess, in a way. To me, he's still out next week. And then Bigsby, if he does something or just has his snap count go up, I might be more inclined to do it. What do you think based on the roster there?
Yeah, I think maybe the wait and see approach might be might be better. I would just if you're on a time limit, I would still take it. But if you can wait, I would.
Okay. Um, I think I'd play the waiting game. You're 5-1. I like where you're at. No need to panic and um, do something you might regret. Is I guess my take, but I can see both sides of it. One of us is higher on Bigsby than the other, or more confident, I guess I would say. Another trade question here. Someone offered Cooper Cup for James Conner and Garrett Wilson. Feels like he should hold Cup. Might try to offer Marvin Harrison Jr. Any thoughts? Uh, James Conner and Garrett Wilson for Cooper Cup. To me, that's something I think I would want to probably take. Am I crazy?
I'm leaning no in this one. I gotta plug my laptop in. Sorry.
Cooper Cup, we still don't know when he's back. Garrett Wilson, I think, probably gets a boost from Devontae Adams in a way there, just not getting the best corner. I know it's going to take targets away, but I feel like it's going to help the Jets offense overall. And I like James Conner. You know, he's a borderline top 15 running back as long as he's healthy, which is the concern there. So I know you've been holding Cup all this time, but to have that much offered for only him, depending on what the rest of your roster looks like, would you say you have Marvin Harrison Jr. as well? So, you know, you've got a good receiver right there. Hopefully he's good. I don't know. I'm sure he's kind of still out there on that Arizona Jekyll and Hyde situation there offensively, but I'm comfortable with that one. Chaka in the chat, another trade. Would we trade Brian Thomas and Amari Cooper for Devontae Adams and TJ Hawkinson? PPR, and it is a redraft league.
Ooh.
To me, that is a Amari Cooper. I don't hate it. What is Hawkinson going to be when he comes back? Well, I mean, based on how the tight end position is this year, probably top 10. Looking ahead to the rest of the season, am I right? Sam Darnold.
So he is practicing. He has one more week to come off the 21-day window after the PUP. So
I'm cool with it. I hate Jacksonville. I don't know about Amari Cooper. Still a lot of mouths to feed in Buffalo. That was their whole game plan coming into the year. I don't know that Amari Cooper necessarily becomes just this target hog in that offense when you got some young receivers there like Shakir, like Coleman, Dalton Kincaid as well. Devontae Adams, I think it's Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers 2.0, just in green this time, a different shade of green, I guess. And I like Hawkinson, so especially if you need a tight end, I'm here for it. You can do that trade. I would not fault you for it. Let's see here. Are we excited to see Drew Brees?
how would he do such a thing?
Yes. But not really. What's up, guys? Let's see, what time are we at here? 2 after the top of the hour. So we'll take a couple more if you guys fire them away quickly. Let's get through this one here first. The outlook on Jalen Waddle this season. Tua is most likely coming back. Someone offered him Waddle for Michael Pittman, and I think I'm getting a steal. Thoughts? Well, is Anthony Richardson going to play quarterback for the Colts the whole rest of the season? Or is Joe Flacco going to be the guy once they decide that they actually want to contend and Anthony Richardson might not be capable of that? That's my question. I like Jalen Waddle, the player. Fortunately, the Dolphins obviously have the issues at quarterback. I don't know that I'm gonna go out and say it's a steal, but I think I do like Waddle better, assuming Tua comes back and can function. Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Yeah, if you're getting Waddle, I think Tua, as dumb as everyone think he is for coming back, I don't think he should come back at this point. I think that it would probably be Waddle's definitely gonna get an uptick once he comes back, so it's not bad to take that trade.
Let me just pull up Waddle's numbers. Read them right off the thing here. So going into last week's bye, 5 targets, 6 targets, 8 targets, with Tagovailoa out of the lineup. So the 8 targets in week 5, encouraging. Good matchup, at least on paper, this week against the Colts. We'll see if Tyler Huntley, another week to digest the playbook, can get things going there. Michael Pittman, are we sure Michael Pittman is the alpha wideout for the Colts now? Because Josh Downs is really freaking good. That's another thing I'm thinking about when I look at this. Not saying that, physically or where they line up on the field, Josh Downs is the quote unquote wide receiver one, but dude runs hella routes out of the slot. And they're good routes. And he makes catches. So I lean Waddle. I'm not going to say it's a steal, but I lean Waddle because I think Tua is going to come back.
Yeah.
Even though I'm kind of with McAdoo, I don't know that it's the best thing for him, but I can also respect the toughness and the desire to be out there and do what he loves. Also, to follow up on this, Bruner in the chat, he posted rest of season rankings to flurrysports.org. So you can go check those out as well. You see, I don't know if it takes what I post in the chat. I'm assuming it does. There we go. There, I dropped them in the stream chat. So, bruh, if you wanted to take a look at those and see where he has Waddle and Pittman ranked comparatively before deciding on that trade, go ahead. That is Zach Bruner's rest of season ranking going into week 7. So, and thank you for subbing and liking. We appreciate it.
Very quickly, you want to go through your start sits?
Yeah, we can. Last call for week 7 start sit. Broncos Saints coming up here. Let's see here. I'm not going to go at warp speed like McAdoo did a couple weeks ago, but my running back, we covered Tank Bigsby. We got one out of the way. I have sitting Tyrone Tracy Jr. and Devin Singletary for the Giants against the Eagles. Eagles defense looked better last week. I get it was against the Browns, but I think Vic Fangio long term is going to shore that up, the tackling, etc. Singletary practicing limited, just like he was last week, and even the Friday of the week before, he missed both games. So is he going to play this week? We don't know from that. We'd like to think he'd be back out there. If he is back out there, is he reclaiming his starting role? I don't know, because Tyrone Tracy has looked really good when Singletary's been out. If Singletary's out, Tracy gets a boost, probably a fringe RB2 at that point. Maybe you look to start Tracy, even though the Giants' offensive line is still bad. Got worse. Andrew Thomas out for the year. Go read the rest of it over in the article, flurrysports.org. Running back, start him, sit him. We go to the starts now. After all that, the Giants' running back situation is suddenly a little bit murky, especially when both guys are healthy for me. So that's the point I'm trying to get across there. The starts, I like Najee Harris against the Jets, who are still having issues stopping the run. Um, Jalen Warren has been banged up this season. Najee Harris, not necessarily a super high snap count on a weekly basis, but he has not had fewer than 13 carries in any game. Last week, posted his best line of the season to date, over 100 rushing yards, and his first touchdown, all of it on 14 carries. I think he has enough PPR value. It'll be interesting to see if the change to Russell Wilson does anything there, but I like Harris this week as an RB2. I think he sneaks into the top 24 there at the position. And then the last one I had was Chase Brown. We touched on him actually with the trade earlier as well. The trade question, taking over that Bengals backfield. It's clear Zach Moss is on his way out. And so Brown, really, to me, I think, unless it's a dreadful matchup or what we're seeing in terms of usage there changes, he's into RB2 consideration for me on a weekly basis, probably top 20. And that's kind of where I would put him this week, is right around 20 into the top 20. I think he's a comfortable start. Your thoughts on any of those names there? Or do you want to call me an idiot for any of those takes? Call me an idiot or add on. One of the two. What do you got?
Purdy, Bijan, Aaron Jones. I don't know. I obviously said start Schultz, so maybe listen to my article.
Fair enough. We do have a last minute question. Here we go. Thank you, Joe, for chiming in. What do we got here? 12-team standard league. Oh, boy. He's lost the last 2 weeks in a row. Brock Purdy, Bijan Robinson, Aaron Jones, DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, Tank Bigsby. ETN is on the bench, has him as well. Dalton Schultz, Cooper Kupp. What should he do? Who should he start? Well, I'm assuming you just named off your starting lineup. And then you have ETN on the bench. What should he do, McAdoo? Help me out.
I don't know. I'm
guessing.
A
little confused. I'm a little confused by the question.
I think it's between Schultz and Kupp, if I'm reading correctly.
Okay, that could be it. If it's between Schultz and Kupp plays, it has to be Kupp, right? Yeah. I don't care if he's limited or not. Yeah. So that would be the way to go. If Kupp's active, definitely play him over Dalton Schultz. But if Dalton Schultz is your option at tight end, as we already discussed, McAdoo likes him this week as well. So that's not bad either, if you got to start both of them. All right. Zach, we got Broncos, 3-point road favorite against the Saints tonight in the Superdome, whatever's left of the Saints, that is. Total is a whopping 37.5. Pick a side or pick over under. Give the people a free pick.
So I went and I decided to just do a 15-pick parlay for every game this week, and I took the Broncos. So
Broncos to win. They cover in the 3?
I took money line every game. I just went and picked just straight.
Are they covering the 3? Come on.
Yes, I think they'll cover.
There we go. No bitch money line here.
Hey, suck one.
Broncos going to cover. You heard it from McAdoo himself. Head on over to FLURRYSports.org. Check out all of the great fantasy football content over on the site, including the best fantasy football ranker in the industry, number 1 on the charts, Zach Bruner, his weekly rankings, as he listed in the chat here tonight. And I tried to throw those in there so you can check those out, those of you watching as well. He's got rest of season rankings heading into week 7 up as well. You got the stardom sit-em columns by myself and McAdoo that we've been discussing intermittently throughout the show. You got weekly streamers, all kinds of great stuff. And then also the Fantasy Football by Committee Facebook group. Check out the podcast. The guys do a great job on the show Wednesday nights as well. All kinds of good stuff. Flurry Sports, FLURRY.org, the place to be. And if you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe wherever you're watching this. Subscribe, follow, do the deed. Good stuff. And we'll end on this because I love this. Bub Means is about to take the league by storm. McAdoo, I don't know what that means for your saying the Broncos are going to win by and cover the -3, but it's Bub Means time. Enjoy the game, everyone. And we will see you next time with more fantasy football talk. Have a good night.